What can you get out of this last game given the last 2 weeks? What do you want to see from the guys?
I think what we'd like to see is what we saw the previous 8 weeks. I think being able to follow some plans, I think being able to give the effort that they've been able to give. I thought we achieved a lot in the previous 8 weeks, and for whatever reason, has been missing the last 2.
What went wrong last week?
Can you just not tap the table? We're just screwing with you tapping the table.
He said he was.
Thought I was Billy Joel.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, piano man.
we like what you're playing, but...
Tinkering the ivories.
What went wrong last week? Rockets have such a bad first half against Collingwood when you've been in obviously there.
It's a very...
I know, it's intangibles.
Yeah, it's right. It's tough to answer, to be honest, Brownie. Yeah, we just... the first... Well, 6 minutes to go in the first quarter, we were 10 points down. So the last 5-6 minutes of the first quarter and the second quarter were terrible. That I knew always at some stage, I thought it might have happened against GWS. I thought that we'd run out of legs. I thought that with the amount of midfielders out, I knew at some stage we'd fall over the cliff. I thought it might have been last week. It probably happened a week earlier, but the way it did last week was very disappointing. I think we're fairly meek and mild with our effort. There were a lot of things that they've been doing went missing, so whether fatigue in the mind made them a bit weaker than they should have been. So it was certainly disappointing. Now, we've spoken about that, but as a young group, they've just got to harden up.
And so how do you get them to bounce back? And if you say they were shot last week, I mean, what's left?
Oh, yeah, that's the physical aspect. Yeah. Certainly the mental aspect. And whatever the result is or how the game goes, they can still apply effort, have application to it. So that's what we're looking for.
Is there some gloss being taken off that improvement, Rocket, with the last couple of weeks in your eyes?
It has to a degree, yeah. Probably more on an individual basis. There's probably some players there that had made some ground, and probably some have been here for a while that have probably had some areas of improvement needed. They'd shown that, and then they regressed. So that puts you in a state of flux a bit about, well, have they really changed? So it's probably more an individual basis and how we assess them going forward.
Does these last few matches, I know you're trying to get the best out of them every single week, but how does this carry forward to next pre-season or in your eyes, the last few weeks?
It's a good question. Probably not, because at the end of the day, it's going to be how they perform at that particular moment. So it's going to be pre-season, how they go pre-season. What it does, and going back to the previous point, is that you're assessing players all the time, and you're assessing them not only how they play or their ability, but how they cope with different situations, especially perseverance and be able to cope against the odds. So a lot have stood up. Some who have been here for a while, as I said, have made some strong ground, but they have been poor the last couple of weeks. So that was disappointing. So do we put them in a box as far as assessment on them? Probably not, but by the same token, you're more likely to give a new or a younger bloke more of a chance.
How do you sort of inspire them for this final game? Is it up to you or is it up to the 22?
Oh, it's a bit of both. It's not so much the old Teddy Whitten speech as such, but it's about talking to them about where their responsibilities are and the way they need to go about it. And now we've built I suppose, a pretty good environment where the players take control a bit about their actions and they challenge each other. So there's been some really good meetings about that, but that needs to transfer onto the ground. So I was confident last week the effort would be better. I didn't know what the result would be like, but I thought now we were let down in that area. So hopefully there's an improvement this week.
So final part of the question, obviously, is it playing for pride? Would you agree?
I think about what the progression we've made. It's about getting back to that as a standard. Certainly the leaders through Stephen and Tom have really challenged the group, which has been terrific. About their effort that is actually required. So a bit of personal pride, but as Michael probably asked the question before, it's about where they think they might sit in the future. I mean, if they don't bring effort, well, we can easily cross them off and we can move on to the next player.
Stephen May sort of spoke earlier in the week about his potential excitement about coming up against Charlie Dixon. Is there a feeling within the club about?
I must admit, I saw that article and I hadn't even thought about him, to be honest. No, haven't even gone there. Haven't even spoken about him, to be honest.
Rocket, I guess Harbrow and Lemons, are they the only two changes?
No, then Jared Garlett as well. So Jared Harbrow broke his thumb, played with that last week. Garlett hurt his AC joint. Sean Lemons his concussion, so that's another 3 players. So the reserves are playing the finals this week, which I think is a great effort under duress of the numbers, and they'll have 4 players to pick from. So that's all we've got available.
With the reserves, I guess having that extra few games at potentially the finals, the reserves, does that give Swallow a chance to come back and play a couple? Or?
No, I won't play. No. If they won this week in the seconds with 4 senior listed players, which includes 3 rookies, it'd be a monumental effort. So
You'd like them to go?
like to go as deep as they can.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah.
But when you're playing against a team that's 3rd on the list in the NEAF and we've got 4 players, it's going to be a big effort. But there was a big effort on the weekend. They beat the 3rd team and only had 8 and ended up down 7 by quarter time.
Jared's injury means that I think Lynchy's going to be the only ever present that you've had this season. Does that tell its story in itself?
What do you reckon, Jacko? Is that a rhetoric question as well? I think we all know the answer to that. I mean, we've played 41. The only ones who haven't played on the senior list itself are Aramira and Swallow. So, we've been cruelled by injuries. But as I said, for the bulk of it, I think we've made some ground and I think we've uncovered some players. Players have got some more time. They've really grown as a group. Unfortunately, the last couple of weeks has probably just taken a bit of gloss off that.
Tom Nichols, what was the go? Is he going for surgery?
No, he's not having surgery. No, he's ruptured his PCL, but he won't have surgery.
Okay, so is that just 8 weeks then?
Yeah, it'll be 8 to 12. Yeah. So he'll be right by pre-season.
Rocket.
Just with Harbrow, Lemons and Garlett out, who looks like he will
Mitch Hallahan will return. Jesse Joyce will return. They're the 2 best players of the weekend. And Darcy McPherson will come back in as well. So he brings a bit of energy. So he's played quite well in the NEAF also.
Rocket, there's no sort of confirmation from either Dion or Jade or...
No comment.
Is there any sort of rush to get an answer out of them as far as you guys?
That'll be kept in-house where it's at, Michael. We'll let people know in time.
I mean, from the club's perspective, you're not sort of trying to hurry it along because it helps you project them forward?
We'll keep that in-house, Michael.
Rocket, you mentioned last week, I guess, down in Melbourne, what do you think Jag is worth? What do you think Dion would be worth if...
No comment. That was only a personal thing. It doesn't mean it's a club view, so there's no comment on that.
Comment on Brent Harvey? I mean...
No comment.
No?
I've been through the same situation, unfortunately. I suppose there's 2 areas they're arguing about, is whether he should have kept going, so that's purely internal about making the right decision, and then it's about how it gets told. But on the second point, the club's in a no-win situation when they make a decision, because players get upset and they don't want to front the media, then the club have got to control the message rather than getting out. So the club are between a rock and a hard place. So, but certainly as a club, North Melbourne, are going to make a decision what they think's best for them.
It makes it harder too when teams are involved in finals sort of games. It was different obviously with Dane Swan and Matthew Pavlich, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is. But each club's got their own unique situations, and I don't think it's easy from people from the outside to make comment on it, to be honest.
just with O'Meara and Prestia, I know you can't say much, but is it still in the talks process, or is it now just the club waiting for them to...
As a club, we'll make some comments later on, so next days or weeks. So we'll leave it at that.
Does the last game of the year have any relevance to next year?
Can you remember our last game last year?
No.
No, there's your answer. And I think the last game of every other year, no one really remembers either. So to answer your question, there's probably no relevance at all.